Hey everybody, it is Joe and Lydia back with another Chew in the Loop podcast. Today we are talking about food dichotomies. And what does that actually mean when we say food dichotomies? Food dichotomy are things that are opposites. You think of things that are that don't usually go well together, or things that are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And in St. Louis, there's a lot of that. When you look at St. Louis as a region, for better or worse, and sometimes for worse, we are a city of divides. There's a lot of division in St. Louis. There's political division. There's geographic division. There is socioeconomical division. There's Missouri and Illinois. There's St. Louis and St. Charles. There's North Side, South Side. There's the Del Mar Divide. We are a city that has so much history has gone about putting people on opposite sides. And just like people, food is the same way, in that there's a lot that actually goes really well when you can bring people together.
Diversity is always the best answer.
Diversity really does make a big difference. That is the key point. And diversity of flavor, it really does bring a lot of things together. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is what are those dichotomies? What are those opposite ends of the food spectrum that when you bring them together, do magical things?
Yeah. So when you talk about dichotomies, we're talking about salty and sweet, right?
Yes. Hot or cold, savory or sweet. Things like, do you like your breakfasts sweet? Are you a pancake, or are you a salty breakfast person?
Oh, that's a complicated question. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, and I will Miss Piggy my way through breakfast. So I'll eat it all.
I'm a salty breakfast person.
Yeah.
I'm a biscuits and gravy. I want some good sausage. I want some bacon. I want some crispy potatoes. I want some cheesy hash browns. I want a breakfast burrito. I want all of that.
Oh, well, I want my bacon, and I want to dip it in the maple syrup and eat it. That is my favorite thing to do at breakfast. Okay. My breakfast meat has to be drenched in maple syrup. Salty, sweet.
So what about your coffee? Hot coffee or cold coffee, or cold iced coffee?
The right answer is coffee. Anytime, any temperature. All right, that is me in my book. Yes, it does not matter.
That is the right
Caffeinated,
answer.
Done.
Really? See, I will drink hot coffee. I'll drink it in the morning sometimes. But if I'm going somewhere to get coffee, I always get iced coffee. I don't know why. I will drink iced coffee in a foot of snow. I'm not one of those people that it has to be warm outside or nice outside to drink iced coffee. Love iced coffee any time of the day, any time of year. What about Chex Mix? Do you like original salty Chex Mix or sweet, Honey Nut Chex Mix?
Another person.
There's chocolate Muddy Buddy Chex Mix. There's cheddar Chex Mix. There's sweet and salty versions.
I am the person that mixes it all together.
See, that where that works is with Garrett's Popcorn in Chicago.
I know.
Oh my God, yes. They need to put one of those in St. Louis so bad.
Oh, the caramel
and cheddar,
and the cheddar.
They call it the Chicago mix, and I know we can rag on Chicago, but dang, the Chicago mix from Garrett's Popcorn in Chicago is
delicious.
Great.
You can't go wrong with it. I will just take a normal bowl of. Here's one that's a little weird. Normal bowl when I go to the movie theater, and I will popcorn, sweet tarts, and M&Ms. Mix them all together, eat them. It's delicious. I may not be the best reference for this podcast because I am obscure with my food.
You're kind of a weirdo. You're a weirdo when it comes to a lot of things.
I am weird,
but
weird is good.
This will be good for you. Pro tip for those that like Garrett's Popcorn, by the way, if you're ever flying through Chicago, there is a Garrett's at one of the terminals at O'Hare. So if you ever you don't need to go downtown or to find one. You can, even if you're flying through Chicago, you can carry it on in large bags and bring it to 9 PBS.
Now, when you say large bags,
Olive Street Road, care of Joe Prosperi.
Is it like the pill, like those long body pillow kind of bags where it's 6 feet tall?
It's not like those movie bags.
Like you buy a seat for it on the airplane. That would be appropriate, right?
I would totally do that. Buy a seat for my bag of Chicago style popcorn. That's hysterical.
Do you have the visual in your mind? Because I do. Yeah, it would be delicious. You just eat your buddy.
Eating it the whole time.
Put a shirt on and make them look like a real person.
So what What's interesting, though, about food dichotomies is that there are some really amazing things that happen when you can achieve both together. And when you think about it, there are a lot of things that we eat every day that at some point in history did not go together, but somebody put them together. And now it seems like everyday occurrences.
You can't think of it without each other.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Exactly.
Who decided I was going to take peanut butter, which we've talked about in a previous podcast, and mix it with Concord grape jelly and put it on bread? Like two totally random things, but for some reason now they have become so standard, and they are now something that are interchangeable, or not interchangeable, but are inseparable. I'm going to put out there hot wings with Cool Ranch dressing.
Or pizza with ranch.
Pizza and ranch.
I like to dip my pizza with ranch. I can't think of it without.
Yeah. But that hot and cool of a hot wing with a Cool Ranch plays off, the dichotomy of hot and cool. You've got chocolate-covered bacon.
It's delicious.
It's like you don't go to a high-end chocolatier these days without finding some form of chocolate-covered bacon.
Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Chicken and pickle brine.
See, no.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you like
I get that. That's Chick-fil-A.
That is Chick-fil-A's
That's
way
Chick-fil-A.
of making their chicken, right?
Yeah. I get Chick-fil-A without a pickle on it.
No, like the chicken itself.
Oh, I know.
Has been marinated in pickle brine.
I know. You're trying to scare me, and it's not working.
It's not scaring you. It's just making you realize you've eaten a pickle.
I have not eaten a pickle.
You've eaten a pickle.
I've eaten a chicken breast that has been soaked in some pickle brine and then deep fried. I would drink a pumpkin spice latte if it's been deep fried too. Okay, come on.
All right, challenge accepted. What about ketchup and ranch dressing?
Yeah. See, we're going through the internet now of all the different things out there that are kind of odd flavor combinations that people are, so we're scooting past one here, salting your watermelon. I love that.
Right?
I love it.
Right? Or putting chili powder on top of your watermelon. Delicious.
Where have I heard chili powder and
mango and chili powder?
That's what it is. Mango and chili powder.
Yeah. There's another one on here that was very obscure to me. It was peanut butter on your hamburger.
That's so funny because I'm going to talk about that in a little bit about some local food places. There are a couple, but one in particular that got a shout out online from some places that has a peanut butter hamburger. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast of local restaurants that are doing some cool stuff. But that's actually a thing now, is peanut butter hamburgers. And I love peanut butter, and I love hamburgers. I haven't had it. I could see where that would work.
Can I tell you one of my favorites that I always get obscure looks on? Mm-hmm. Ice cream and French fries. I will get a McFlurry's at McDonald's and take my French fries and scoop it up.
I don't know how obscure that is anymore. I think people have been dipping their French fries in their Frosties from Wendy's for decades.
Well, you know what? It's it's delicious.
It is. I mean,
it catches on. When it's delicious, it catches on.
What I want to do is take French fries and make them press them into a waffle cone somehow, like a waffle cone press, and then put ice cream in it.
Maybe our guest today, you could pitch that idea to her.
We're not going to reveal our special guest until the end because we're really excited.
Hit
about
number
our guest
one,
today.
She does something with waffle cones.
And she does something with food dichotomies.
Yes, yes.
Hint, hint. All right. So I think that we also kind of reached out to our Chew in the Loo community on Facebook, and we asked them what are some of the more interesting food combinations that they like and that they have seen and they've played around with.
Yes.
I know one that I put on there on the list was olive oil ice cream. I have had I went to a restaurant once that had an olive oil ice cream next to a scoop of black pepper ice cream. And my goodness, what an interesting, amazing flavor combination, because that spice from the pepper and the creaminess you get from olive oil kind of had this kind of numbing effect to it.
Yeah.
Then the coolness of the ice cream, it was just all very numbing, but also very sweet at the same time. It was just this odd, pleasurable sensation.
So it's like, and this is one of my favorite summer food dichotomies, strawberries, balsamic vinegar,
Yes.
and black pepper.
Ooh,
Mix those all together. Let the strawberries emaciate in the vinegar. Put it on top of an olive oil cake. Oh my God, life changing! It will change your
it's
life.
like watermelon and feta.
Yes.
Like, who would think
Or
watermelon and cheese would go together, but watermelon and feta.
prosciutto and melon.
That's another good one.
Right? So looking through the list, I just want to share some because I thought there were some that were very interesting on here, like leftover garlic bread and grape jelly.
Really?
Yes.
Being Italian, I have leftover garlic bread all the time.
Well, now you know what to try with your grape jelly if you're looking to have a new meal, right? There was a lot of popcorn and candy combinations, beer and chocolate, which makes sense. There were a lot of shout outs to blue cheese pairing with like salt and vinegar chips, blue cheese and chocolate.
I've heard that blue cheese and dark chocolate, which is very surprising to me, as pungent as blue cheese is, and as unique as that flavor is. You think it would be kind of stand out on its own, and it would not be something that would pair well with much besides steak or
a wedge salad, right?
You know,
something
like there'd be very
creamy,
few uses for it. But to pair it with something that's sweet, but when you think dark chocolate is bitter, does that go well with the pungent footiness of a blue cheese?
Footiness. I don't believe that description has been on their labels. I think that they omitted that.
I love blue cheese, though, by the way. I think it's I don't like feet, but I love blue cheese.
All right, Joe, so we've talked a lot about opposites, dichotomies, and I think one definitely that we should talk about is naughty and nice, right?
I mean, there's nothing more dichotomous than being naughty versus being nice.
Right. I mean, especially when you're talking about Christmas time, right? We're all concerned about being naughty and nice around then, but
especially my kids. They're naughty all year, and then all of a sudden, the moment you mention Santa Claus, it's like, oh, well, now I got to be nice. Really, no, my kids are nice year round, believe it or not. But
they're very sweet children, yes. Well, I think with that, I think we should definitely introduce our guest, our special guest that we have been hinting on this whole podcast.
We are pleased to welcome to the Chew in the Loop podcast, Tamara Keefe from Clementine's Naughty and Nice Creamery.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We
are so excited. And this fits so well into this podcast episode, talking about all these dichotomous flavors of hot and cold and sweet and salty and savory and sweet. And to have an ice cream place that is known for creating things that are simultaneously naughty and nice. I mean, that's kind of what you want in an ice cream.
Absolutely.
So what's the story? What is the story of Clementine? So when you're setting out, and one day you wake up and think, "I'm going to open an ice cream parlor or a creamery," you know, what makes you say naughty and nice?
Well, that was just happenstance, actually. So once I had decided to open Clementine's, and I had started making ice creams for like a bunch of my wholesale restaurant customers before I ever had the shop opened. Kevin Brennan from Brennan's actually approached me one day and said, "Hey, I want to do something cool and different. I would love to put booze into ice cream and to have shakes or just to have a boozy ice cream." And he goes, "Nobody's ever, I haven't heard anybody talk about that before." And I said, "Yeah, well, you can't really do it because you can't freeze alcohol." Yeah. And that really started the conversation, and it got me thinking. And he's like, "Well, can you just try?" And I was like, "Okay, but you got to give me the booze." So
a key part in any story.
I mean, of course, it's great payment all the time, right?
Right? It was a good trade. And so he did, and it was in my early days when I was just starting Clementine's, and I'd come from the food industry, and I have all these amazing contacts and friends who are food scientists and chemists, and I kind of just put the word out there, and I said, is this possible? And so I tried starting some things, and a bunch of friends and I started calling and emailing back and forth. And, coming from the food industry, I had knowledge and access to a lot of technologies that most people don't, and different kinds of ingredients. And I have just enough knowledge in the food science world to make me dangerous, right? And so we started kind of working with it, and we'd get on these conference calls, these 5 or 6 of us, all around the country, and somebody would say, what about this, and have you tried this, and can you do this, can you encapsulate that, can you all different kinds of things. And we started just tinkering, and luckily I had access to a local like food manufacturing facility and pilot plant from the industry that I previously worked at and all my friends. And so we started trying things, and one day we were like, wait a second, it just kind of happened. And we're like,
do this?
Did we just do this? Did we kind of stumble upon something? And so then we did it again, and we kind of started doing it again and again. And as true like food scientists, like we were in there, with our lab notebooks, like, okay, what happens if we do this? And what happens if we do this? And what if you do it this? And what if you put it through this process? And so like it took us about 6 months, but I had this like team of friends who were living vicariously through what I was doing, leaving my corporate job and starting something new. And there has been no innovation in ice cream since Dippin' Dots, literally.
Yeah.
And so it was very exciting to be a part of something, to see something come together. And then we were like, yeah, we're going to get a patent on this, like, because we're doing it like nobody can put booze into ice cream as much as we can at the levels that we can, up to 18% the recipe. So we go to the attorneys, of course, and we're like so excited. And the attorneys are like, okay, yeah, we can do this. You can file a patent, absolutely. But if you do this, then the world will know how you can do this. And we're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, it protects it, but it tells the world how you do it.
The catch-22.
It's a catch-22. And we were like, oh. And they're like, if this really is that innovation, I would advise you to keep it as a trade secret and not put it out there and get a patent on it.
So I'm going to scratch out my next question, which was to ask you the process on how to do it. Oh, is there more to the story?
I want to just say that this is total validation. I'm constantly made fun of because of how nerdy I am about the science in food. And I want to let you know that this is the moment that it is important. There's science in everything with food. So will you do this? Will you just explain why alcohol really can't go into ice cream at the levels that you normally can? You don't have to go into any trade secrets, but to explain to the home ice cream maker why it's not possible.
Because it depresses the freezing point of the ice cream, the liquor does, right? So you have to find a way to freeze the alcohol.
Right. It won't crystallize the way that it needs to. It won't become solid. You end up with a slushy, really, a milkshake alcohol slushy, right?
Yes.
That's why mudslides are so popular, because that's all you could get.
That's right. So we just decided from that point on, like, okay, we're going to keep this a trade secret, and you make sure that no part of it is, different parts are produced in different facilities, so nobody actually knows how you do it, and so you can work here for whatever, and you're never going to work here. Like, we've set up our manufacturing so that it's a very tightly kept
Really?
secret.
Okay.
It's like the Coca-Cola recipe, right?
Yeah.
So I know
Sorta.
you had delicious ice cream, because I've eaten it many a time, but this is not a story that I knew. So, like, how many employees know the secret?
Only 2.
Stop it. So, like, there are people that are making ice cream that don't know from
How it
start to
works.
finish how it works.
Correct.
That is fascinating to me. I love that.
Because people are fallible, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we've got
100%.
employees trying to steal recipes, and
You're like the Willy Wonka of the ice cream world.
sort of, I guess. I don't know, but like,
Who was your Slugworth? That's what I want to know.
We've seen a lot, and so we early on in the early days, we had to like set up and take precautions to have certain things are made in certain facilities by someone else. Other parts of the process we make in our kitchen. So, yeah.
My mind is blown.
Right. I mean,
There's like espionage here. Like we're gonna have like offline stories and conversations that are not on the record.
And I've got good
I'm
ones.
sure you
oh,
do.
juicy. It's a whole book, right? The memoirs will be coming out sooner than later.
Eventually.
I mean, that's fascinating to me.
Well, but I think let's roll it back, because I think that it's important to talk about.
Because I could go down that rabbit hole for an
You
hour.
could.
We don't have an hour.
But I think it's important to share that ice cream has always been in your life as like a deep rooted like luxury, and it's one of your favorite things. So you didn't just one day wake up and decide, oh, I want to make ice cream and I want to make ice cream with alcohol in it. Like it has been something laced in throughout your journey.
Yes. Ever since I've been a child, you know how I came to ice cream. I was a little girl, and I come from pretty humble beginnings and a very large family. And one summer when I was about 7 or 8 years old, after church, I heard other kids talk about going for ice cream. And immediately I ran up to my mom and I tugged on her dress and I'm like, hey, do we get to go for ice cream? And she was like, no, honey, I'm sorry, we can't. Well, the ostentatious, you know, and like never always persistent person that I am as a kid, every Sunday when I heard kids talk about ice cream, I'd go back to my mom. Do we get to go for ice cream? And the answer was always no. Well, you don't know that you're not supposed to make your parents feel bad for being poor, right? Because as a kid, you don't know you're poor. You just know that other kids get to do something and that you don't, right? And so one Sunday we were driving home from church and we stopped at a garage sale and my mom found an old hand crank ice cream, you know, those old hand for $2. And she bought it and we got home and she said, okay, go change your clothes, do your chores, and everybody come back to the kitchen now or we're going to make ice cream. And so we did. We started making ice cream after church because that's how we could afford to do it with a family of 10, right? And we just started making it every Sunday. And eventually, well, let me back up. So we were like a small army. So I have 4 older brothers. It was me, my parents, and my grandparents, right? So we were like that family at church that really didn't get invited to people's houses very often because who's going to invite an army?
Right, the fleet of people to come.
The fleet of people, right? So we were kind of like that family over here, right? My dad was always fixing stuff on the church and my mom was cooking for the old ladies. So like our family was loved, but I wouldn't say popular. We were kind of like over there and we didn't really have any money. And, you know, on Thanksgiving, there was groceries that always showed up on our front step. So, you know, we were kind of like over there. Well, that summer, as people started hearing that we were making homemade ice cream, all these families started asking if they could come to our house to make ice cream. And so as a little girl, right? And so one family, you know, our family couldn't afford, so one family would bring the milk, another family would bring the cream, and somebody else would bring something else. And so we went from like being this family over here to being like the most popular family like in the church, right?
Via ice cream.
Yeah. And so as a little girl, ice cream like changed my life. Mm-hmm. It changed my whole sense of community. It was like this ice cream cone just like made my life great. And so literally as a kid, my association with ice cream and the passion for it and what we did and how it made me feel and our new friends and we got invited to part, like it just changed my whole sense of community. And so that has just always stayed with me. We always made ice cream as a family up until my mom passed away together. And then I carried the torch and it's always just been with me. It's in my soul. It's part of like who I am and bringing people together and the memories that you make with each other. It's so real. And guess what? If you're holding an ice cream cone, you're not holding a phone in your hand, right? Like ice cream is like the thing that like, whether you're with your family or your kids or your first date, and guess what? Ice cream is always like, it's like also like a class, like it doesn't matter if you're the CFO or you're the janitor, you can afford to take your kids out for ice cream. You may not be able to take your family out to dinner and a movie and all this stuff, but like everyone can afford to take their kids out for ice cream.
And we all react the same when it falls off the cone. We all have that same deep-pitted like, oh, right?
Difference is that Clementines will replace it. But, you know, but like answer. Ice cream comes from this like place deep inside me of like love and compassion and kindness and generosity of spirit and community and being together. And that's just something that has always stayed with me my whole life. And I never thought I'd end up in ice cream. I never thought about opening my own ice cream shop. It was just something that was my hobby and my passion that I carried with me, you know, and I just happened to end in the work in the food industry, right? And so I happened to understand food safety and traceability and, you know, HACCP, all these very technical things that you have to know and understand and how to produce a product at a large scale safely, right? And how do you do that? And I happened to work in marketing and brand and strategy, and that's what I did for 25 years. So I happened to be in the food industry, work in marketing and brand, and have this love of ice cream. So after 20 some years in corporate America, being fed up, deciding what I wanted to do next, it just kind of came up.
All three of those powers combined created the dynasty that is.
And it's, people are like, oh my gosh, you're so successful. I'm like, yeah, but I had to like take all those years of education and all those years in corporate America and running businesses, to get me to here. Like, I couldn't have done this 20 years ago.
Well, you said it took a worldwide, not a worldwide, but a nationwide effort of your friends on calls.
Yeah.
Like, this is not one person making small batch ice cream. This is a well-researched, well-thought-out method of great minds in the food industry coming together to create an amazing product. That does not happen overnight. It does not happen quickly. It does not happen cheaply. It does not happen easily. And so you've got the ice cream. You've got the process down, the magical process that you will not divulge to me on this podcast, and
or ever.
It's not left to you in any will. Okay,
we'll see about that. So you've got your shop, and you're successful, and people are buying it. People are loving it. You've got great things. You've got gooey butter ice cream that has
thank you to me
actual real chunks of gooey butter cake in it. Thank gosh. That I will always appreciate actually eating it and being like, oh, it doesn't just taste like gooey butter cake like some gooey butter. It actually has real gooey butter cake in it. How do you get from a shop in St. Louis, Missouri, at making ice cream, which there's ice cream shops all over the place and all over the country? How do you get from that to Oprah's Favorite Things, to last month you were on CBS This Morning, to Food and Wine Magazine? Where does that jump? That doesn't just happen. Like, I can't just make I make delicious food. I cook all the time, but Oprah's not sitting on my front porch waiting to taste it. What goes into that? Like, how does that happen?
Well, it's really good PR and marketing. We've invested in good marketing since the beginning, and it costs time and money. And we've hired really good and amazing publicists and PR firms that have been out there knocking on these doors. And we've been sending ice cream to people for 5 and 6 years, right? It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's the product. It's the follow-up. It's been a lot of hard work to get there, but we're so proud because, in my own way, I'm putting St. Louis on the map nationally in the food scene in ice cream. Like I can do what I can. Like,
we love you for that, by the
way. Thank you. But
I know,
I'm super proud to be here because I could not have followed my dreams if I didn't live. Literally, if I was in any other city in the world, Clementine's would not be what it is today because of the city of St. Louis and the people who have supported me and how we support our independent businesses and restaurants. Like, St. Louis is this it's a super magical place to be able to follow your dreams and have something be accessible and to try it. I don't know. I digress, but I'm super
it's so
proud.
Good to hear that about a city that has its problems, but to hear that there are so many good things that can come out of St. Louis and that there are people willing to support that and do that, and hear someone say that so empathetically is moving. So
well, and not only that, but I think on the national level too.
Yeah.
Because I think so often we hear the reports, we see the list of most dangerous city, right? And we're on it, but there's a lot more when you pull behind the curtains and see how beautiful our city is to help the communities.
So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with who Mark Maron is, but he was this national comedian that bashes Missouri on a regular basis, right? And on a national scale, Missouri doesn't have the best record right now, right, in COVID and everything. But when he came to town, I made it a point to say, hey, let me take you around. Let me show you St. Louis. Let me show you all the cool things here. And he then left here and talked about on his national podcast and his stuff oh my gosh, St. Louis is this great little amazing city. And so, I may still have my opinions about the state of Missouri, but St. Louis rocks, And so anytime we get the opportunity, like on a national scene for people who have that voice and the onus is on us as proud citizens of the city to say, hey, St. Louis is magical. St. Louis has so many cool things to offer. St. Louis, the cost of living here is amazing. We have this amazing art scene. We have this amazing music scene. If you're into food, we have a kick-ass food scene here. If you're into startups or tech, there's our tax dollars are at work. The city does an amazing job. Forest Park is free. 1,500 seats to the Muni in perpetuity are free. The museums are free. The zoos are free. The program, this city offers so much that no other American city has. And
true.
We don't get this out there enough, and we don't remind ourselves enough that we live in a really cool place. And I'm super passionate about that. If you can't,
I love it.
Tell me about that.
I love it.
But I love that you're growing, right? Sometimes you see people that are successful and they're like, okay, well, we're going to leave the city and we're going to go and we're going to expand to other cities, but you're keeping it in town. You're keeping it local. You're shipping outside of St. Louis, but you keep growing inside the city. So we're on 5, almost 6, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So any plans to expand to more?
Yeah, we have planned for about 10 or 12 in the St. Louis
Hot
metropolitan
dang,
area.
I like that.
Yeah. We want to own our market, right? I'm a business person. We want to dominate this market and own it. And we will go national, eventually, but we got to take care of our own first and make sure that we get where we need to get to locally.
Yeah. So now store number 6 is the Kirkwood store. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm super excited about Kirkwood. We have the privilege and honor, quite frankly, to be taking over and extending the history of the old custard station.
So I remember, because I grew up in Kirkwood, I remember as a small child going there when it was Jeremiah's, before it was the custard station, and getting your ice cream and watching the trains go by. So I am thrilled to be able to bring my kids over and get ice cream and sit and watch the trains go by down there by the train station. So that's super, super exciting to hear.
That was one of the places my now husband took me when he's like, let me take you home to meet the folks, right? He took me to a few places, but he had to go get that cherry chocolate chip that Jeremiah's had. And you could just see inside of him that this was just, it meant so much, that nostalgia and that local feel to it. So it's exciting to see it being taken over with someone that has just a love and a passion to keep everybody included. And I think when we talk about, inclusion, you have vegan ice cream, which is just phenomenal. I have a neighbor that is dairy-free, and she is lamented about how she loves ice cream. It's one of her favorite things, but she, for a very long time, couldn't. And so I think, tell us about the process of making vegan ice cream, because that's also a challenge as well, right?
Can you bleep us? It's really hard. So it's funny. So I've always made ice cream. But when I started Clementine's, my best friend made a personal life choice to become a vegan. And the only thing that she would always harp and say was, oh my gosh, the only thing I miss is ice cream. Can you please make an ice cream that doesn't taste like because bleep that too. Okay. She goes, because all of the frozen desserts out there taste disgusting. They taste like ice or flavored ice or soy, or they just don't taste good and they have a horrible flavor. And I was like, well, they can't really taste that bad, can they? And she's like, come on to Whole Foods. So literally we went to Whole Foods one day and we bought every frozen dessert that they had that was a non-dairy option. And I almost puked by the end of the hour of tasting all of these. I was like, gosh, they're so nasty. And she's like, yeah, this is what we're left with. And she's like, if you can nail this, she's like, you will have a very loyal and dedicated customer base, albeit small, but it'll be there. And then she got really emotional, and she goes, my life isn't complete without ice cream, and I'm a vegan and I can't have it, and I need it and I want it. And I was like, oh, pressure. Okay. So it took me 8 months before I actually came out with my first vegan ice cream. And it was only one, because they're really hard to formulate. You have to have the right balance of the fat and the protein and the enzymes. There is a science to it, and it's really hard to make a frozen product that looks like ice cream, tastes like ice cream, that's creamy, that has the flavor that, you know. So it took me a really long time to do it. And the first one that I created was my chocolate coconut fudge. And it's amazing. And that's the one we went on to win the best vegan ice cream in America with that one. And so after that, and like people would, when I first opened Clementine's, that was like the only dairy-free one that we had. But like, let's say we ran out or we had a great Saturday, people would get so emotional if we didn't have it in the store because they were driving from like Colombia, and they're like far away, like to get this because they heard it was the best or they had it once before or whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to expand my offerings. And so I really started working on doing more. And so we always have 4 non-dairy options in our stores at all times. So out of, 24, 4 are non-dairy. That's a big percentage of our rail.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, where you see all the ice creams, the rail. And it's becoming a hugely important part of our business because we do dairy-free and they're usually gluten-free. We have something for everyone who has any kind of dietary restrictions. But the dairy-free, they're just awesome because they actually taste like ice cream. They're creamy and delicious. In fact, we do a lemon poppy seed that's now one of our standard vegan ice creams or non-dairy options. It's actually one of my favorites that I eat all the time.
Our producer Veronica is mouthing that it's so good.
It is. It's so good. And it's funny because most of our vegan ice creams, people have been coming in and eating them for years. They have no idea that they're dairy-free. And they'll find out and they're like, what? They're like totally shocked. And we're like, yeah, that's dairy-free. And they're like, oh my God, it's my favorite ice cream. Blah, blah, blah.
So speaking of all your ice creams, what is your number one favorite ice cream that you make?
My Madagascar Vanilla.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's the best vanilla out there in the market. Mm-hmm. I only use the highest quality products. I don't use artificial flavors, fillers. I do nothing on the cheap, and I don't use crappy ingredients ever. It's against my everything. Yeah. So about in 2016, I don't know if you recall, there was a lot of hurricanes in the world, and they literally took out almost half of the world's vanilla plantations. Concurrently, that happened. All the big CPG companies, the big consumer packaged good companies, were also moving to cleaner labels, which is good for all of us, right? They were getting rid of artificial vanilla, artificial flavors. And so they, at that time, had started going out, using their economies of scale, buying futures from a lot of these plantations and a lot of these companies. So what happened is now your supply was cut in half. All these big companies started taking up most of the supply that was left. So that left a tiny amount for everybody else in the world and little people like me. So in 2016, I was paying about $80 for a gallon of a double fold, which is like super high quality, amazing vanilla, a double fold vanilla. Within 30 days, I was paying $976.
Oh my gosh.
A gallon. Because it was gone. There was no supply, and the big guys had bought up all of it and already had it committed to. And so what happens, right, and it takes 5 years for a vanilla bean to actually yield fruit in order to have the bean to use it to make extract or scrape the beans or whatever. Mm-hmm. So prices went skyrocketing. Most ice cream companies in the country took vanilla off their menus. You couldn't walk into an ice cream store and get a vanilla for almost 2 years. Most people don't recognize that. If they got them in the store, they were using artificial and whatever, so people didn't really see it. So also, vanilla is similar to salt. So vanilla is almost in every single ice cream flavor out there because it kind of does what salt does. It rounds out flavors. It enhances a certain dimension. So when all this happened, all these ice cream companies took vanilla out of their shops and they started reformulating all their flavors and reformulating vanilla out, right? So you started, over time, they started changing all their flavors. Well, come hell or high water, I was not going to do that. So literally vanilla has been and is my most expensive ice cream to make, aside from the boozies. Now prices have come down, but now it's $500 and some a gallon. I still pay that. I still paid it. I paid it when it was $900 a gallon because it was about quality for me. And I'm me, right? Like, I don't have investors. I don't have debt. Like, it was the only person who was losing was me, right? Because I make no money on my vanilla ice cream. I probably lose some, but it's the best out there. And so for me, during that time and this thing, that's a personal choice that I made, because it's also like when people are very skeptical, or, chefs like, oh yeah, you say you have the best ice cream. And I'm like, here's my vanilla. And they're like, holy moly, like, this is amazing, right? Because it's the one thing that you can control. And it's like who you are, that you're not going to like denigrate your product. You're not going to like cheapen it over time. And so for me, my Madagascar Vanilla was like, no, that's like what you start with. That's your base. That is your base product that everything else is built from. Every other flavor is built from. Every other profile, everything is like. So I geek out a little bit about this stuff, but like,
it's okay. I do too. But Joe's not going to make fun of you.
No, I make fun of her, but I won't make fun of you for geeking out about it, because you deliver delicious ice cream. She just
thank you
co-hosts a podcast with me.
But like the vanilla is like, don't mess with my like, it's like you can talk bad about your children, but no one else can. Like, don't mess with my vanilla. Other people can go do whatever stupid things they want. And by the way, just while we're on the vanilla topic, there is no such thing as French vanilla. That it was a marketing scheme from the 50s. It's yellow, and they call it French. There is no such thing. The French do not have a French vanilla ice cream. That is a marketing myth from bad grocers who sold cheap ice cream.
Everyone take note of that.
If you go to a coffee shop and you want French vanilla and they're out of it, they'll take 1 pump of hazelnut and 2 pumps of regular vanilla to give you the French vanilla flavor.
Huh.
So all you people out there, there's no such thing as French vanilla. Stop eating it. It's bad. It's a marketing myth.
What would you say? So naughty
Sorry,
and nice.
I digress.
You're good. I love digressions. What would you say is your naughtiest ice cream?
Ooh. Like booziest or just naughtiest?
Your naughty and nice. What do you think is straight up your naughtiest? Because you can guess that next I'm going to ask what's your nicest.
I know. So our best-selling naughty flavor is definitely our maple bourbon with salted candied pecans. That's that's our most popular, I would say.
I mean, I'm looking at your list right now. You've got pink champagne sorbet. You've got a Manhattan on there.
We have Moscow Mule now.
A hot peach ice cream.
Hot peach pie. It's like
Talk about a dichotomy.
It's like tuaca and peach schnapps with like hot apple cider flavors mixed. It's like when I used to go skiing, that was like my winter drink. It's called a hot peach pie. Yeah. So good. And so, yeah.
All right. So your nicest ice cream.
Gooey butter cake, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
It's so nice.
I'm very proud of that, because gooey butter cake, of course, is like a St. Louis tradition. And when I was really trying to come up with what flavors I wanted to open with, I had never heard of gooey butter cake when I moved here in 2008. And literally within 2 months, I put on 15 pounds of gooey butter cake fat, because I had to go to every place in town to find out, like, discover who
Where's
made the
your
best.
favorite gooey butter cake from?
Clementine's now. We make our own.
Oh, do you really?
And we did
All right,
in
so
the
besides
beginning.
your own, just because we're a food podcast, and I got to ask, if you were to go somewhere to get a gooey butter cake, where do you go?
Who's done a good one most recently? The Four Seasons had an amazing gooey butter cake recently. Okay. I also think Russell's has some good ones. Park Avenue has some good ones. I'm just really biased because we perfected it. Like, no one makes it better than us. And we don't even sell gooey butter cakes like in our shops. We make them for our ice cream.
Have you ever thought about selling gooey butter cakes? As a self-proclaimed gooey butter aficionado, we served it at my wedding. I would buy a cake from you, knowing how well you treat ice cream, that it would probably be a delicious cake.
Yeah, it's just all about logistics and.
We'll talk offline.
We'll talk offline.
Along with trade secrets
if you need
here.
an angel investor for your gooey butter cake business, maybe you found one.
We can hardly keep up. We have one person in our kitchen full time. They do nothing else but make gooey butter cakes.
Wow.
10 hours a day.
I want that
2
job.
shifts. Every single day.
It would probably
7 days a week.
It would ruin gooey butter cake for me, though. I don't know if I could do it. So in terms of pairings, has there ever been a pairing that you've tried that just didn't work? That it was too dichotomous? That
Yes, but they never made it to the rail.
They never made it to the rail. Would you share what they were, or is that all trade secrets?
Oh, I don't know if it's trade secrets. I really like a lot of savory ice creams. So I try crazy things all the time.
Yeah.
That you would not normally ever put in ice cream. I've put garlic in ice cream.
You put blue cheese in ice cream.
Yes, and it works. It's delicious,
I bet it does.
Actually. So I've had some that have been not as popular. I did a collaboration quite a few years ago with Bouillards. So there is this beautiful dessert in Italy called sanguinaccio, and it's a blood pudding. It's made with pig's blood. And it's delicious and savory and minerally and amazing. And so I got this idea. I was trying to come up with a way to collaborate to work with them. I was going to do a pig's blood ice cream. Okay. So I go to them and they're like, the state of Missouri won't even let us sell pig's blood. You can for consumption, right? And I said, what about beef's blood? And they're like, we can do that. And so I was like, okay, hook me up. So I made a beef's blood. It was originally called Bitchin' Bovine, but it was a
I love this.
chocolate pig's blood ice cream.
Based off sanguinaccio.
Based off sanguinaccio. And we actually sold out in 2 hours.
Wow.
Because we put it out there and everyone's like, I got to go try this. And most people hated it. It was super minerally and because the fat in the ice cream enhances the flavor tenfold, right? The blood. And so when we were making it, we had to make sure it didn't clot while we were cooking it to pasteurize it with the dairy. And everyone in my kitchen was it was horrible to make, but we made it and it was actually quite good and interesting. But yeah, it didn't.
The marketing piece, it wasn't marketable for a large audience.
No. So
It's a Halloween play.
Yeah, probably not even.
I applaud the effort, though.
Yeah,
I love that
yeah.
you shared that story. That's fantastic.
Well, I have a question. Would you ever consider an Aspic flavored Jello? Ice cream or sorbet?
Oh, absolutely. I've done all kinds of crazy ones. Some of my savory ones end up being really amazing. I do it's actually a lot of people still request it. I do a manchego with truffles and honey.
Ooh, yum.
And that's delicious, right? I've done savory. I've done lamb spices you use for lamb. There's this amazing chef out of Boston. I went in and I had this lamb dish that she is super famous for, and I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm like, what are the spices? And I took all the spices back and I made an ice cream, and it was a super savory one. So I like a lot of those. And they actually, if you're open to, I did asparagus quinoa ice cream. So I candied quinoa and I put it in an asparagus ice cream. And it was really good if you like asparagus, right? With candy. But, it just
Love the idea.
I
don't like asparagus, but I love the idea. Love quinoa.
But it was really good. You got to be adventurous to try those kinds of
Got to be
flavors.
open to those flavors.
That's fantastic.
We just haven't been able to do a lot of that lately because since COVID, we're not allowed to sample. We're not allowed to sample. And so people aren't going to try ice creams. They're not going to commit to a whole scoop of something if they can't try it first, if it's adventurous. So the past couple of years, we've had to cut back a little bit on our adventurous flavors because people can't try them and they're kind of chicken.
Yeah.
Which I understand.
The day will come.
Yeah,
the day will come.
It will.
And when it does, you have a notebook somewhere with 400 ideas that you've just been storing.
Of course. But I love Aspics because when you freeze that, you'd have these like great little pieces that might be a little icy at first, but they'd be more gelatinous.
There's a
Joe,
running joke.
do you think that you could do Aspic?
No. There's a running joke on our food group with Aspics.
Have you tried it? Have you tried it
Of
before?
course I've tried
You've
Aspics.
when?
Like, I'm almost 40 years old. I've eaten gelatin salad thing.
A meat flavored gelatin.
I don't know.
Guess what?
Are you going to make one for me? Is that what you're going to tell me?
We have one for you today.
Stop it.
Yes, we do. We will be right back with that.
Oh, I feel like I'm being this is a sneak attack. Get out of here. I knew when I saw you guys in the kitchen that there was something happening. What is this grossness?
It is a little bit of Aspic.
Oh my God. Is that like a porchetta in there?
So today for this podcast, as a surprise,
I love when guests are in on the joke. That is disgusting, nasty looking.
yeah,
I'll try anything once. You're filming this?
absolutely.
We are a media organization. Oh, it comes with toasted cracker rounds to try it with. I would rather have a spoon that I can try. Are you supposed to eat it with toasted bagel rounds?
Dip it on it. I apologize we didn't have time to make a mayo-y mustard, aioli to go with it as well. So,
Lucky me. This is disgusting. Oh, it just like flops off the tray. Oh. What flavor is it?
So that one is an Italian flavored. It's meat based.
Of course it is.
But like, look how beautiful. You see the
Yeah.
porchetta, you see the flour is made out of carrot.
I thought you were an ice cream person. You're an Aspic person.
I'm a food person. I love
Yes.
food. And I'm Italian and Irish.
So I have to shout out to Mickey Ketterman, one of my chef friends, for taking the time to make this.
It is a beautiful,
He is an artisan.
disgusting Aspic.
Way to compliment and also
Cheers.
cheers. I even got garlic bagel chips for you. How's that texture?
Jello-y.
it's really good.
Yeah. There's even a big slice of brie in there too. So if you work your way through it, you'll get to the brie and you'll get to the meat, right?
Work your way through it?
It's like a treasure hunt. Like
I
you
don't
get
know if I'm gonna work my
rewarded.
way through anything.
You work your way through to get your treasure in the middle.
Well, the flavor is good.
Right?
I mean, it's cold and gelatinous. It's what I expected from an Aspic.
Absolve.
So you would really make this into an ice cream?
I think I would do it just to be funny. I don't think it would sell very well.
You are a wonderful sport. I appreciate that. Now, what is the big slice of meat in here?
Those are it's cured pancetta. I think porchetta.
Yeah,
it's
right.
porchetta.
Porchetta. Okay, it's a big slice of porchetta.
I mean, like I said, it's a treasure buried within, right?
It's
The
like,
more you
I don't wanna get two
carve
slices
away,
in here
the
and,
more
like,
treats
carve
you get.
away. And I'm like, I love brie, so I kind of want to like
Dig the brie out.
dig in the
It's
brie
kind of
out
like that
the middle
toy
here.
at the bottom
Oh, it's
of
like
the
a
cereal
whole
box.
wedge of brie. Ooh,
Look at that.
It's
Actually,
like-
you know what would be really cool
so
with this would be
magically
like
delicious.
a really soft pate layered in between.
Oh,
That
see,
would
now
be-
we're brainstorming.
That
Right?
would be amazing.
Well, as we were talking
Sorry.
about options, we had also talked about maybe doing a salmon mousse in there and
Now that's
maybe doing some
disgusting.
seafood.
Everyone's got limits.
Right.
Everyone has limits.
So I steered them away from there's one that was tuna fish and a lemon Jello base.
Oh, see, that'd have been a no.
I steered them away from that. I said, let's go with something a little bit more.
You went with the sliced Italian meat and brie.
Safe.
Works for
Safe.
me.
Yeah.
Beef.
We gotta, it's a stepping stone Aspic relationship. We gotta start out with something good, and then eventually we'll evolve into.
It doesn't jiggle as much as I expected it to
Yeah.
be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's fairly firm. I would not say you've made me a convert.
Oh,
However,
should I be afraid what's in my future from you for
oh
retaliation?
well, this definitely sets the stage for many. I mean, there are many things to come for you, Lydia Gwynn, Miss Keefe over there, who is you're a guest on this podcast, but you might be in trouble too. Well, I'm going to put this upstairs in the kitchen and send a whole staff email and be like, hey, staff, if anybody's in the office tomorrow, there's some fresh Aspic in the fridge if anybody would like it.
We should tape and see how long it takes for someone to take a bite.
Yeah, just leave it out on the counter and see if it's still there in like a week.
This has been a fantastically wonderful episode all about food dichotomies of the Chew and the Lou podcast. We hope to see you guys again in 2 weeks. Make sure you guys check out any recipes that we have related to this episode, which could be far and wide, on chewandthelou.org, and follow us on your favorite social media channels.
And don't forget, if you'd like to see the video of Joe trying this delicious meat aspect, we will have it available on our social.
Most unfortunately, we probably will make it available to you, yes. So, but big thank you again to Tamara Keefe for joining us today for our podcast. It's been a blast.
All right, breaking news, our Chew crew. So after we recorded our initial interview with Tamara, we got some exciting news about a celebrity collaboration that she was doing with Clementines. And so now we want to share it with you. So November 1st, she is releasing a new ice cream that is the one and only collaboration with St. Louis's Andy Cohen. So Peppermint Andy will be released for us to come and enjoy. It's a peppermint ice cream with dark chocolate in it. It sounds delicious. And hearing how they have been shipping this ice cream back and forth from St. Louis to New York City to get it just perfect, you know, with all the attention to detail, it is going to be amazing. So swing into Clementine's to try out the Peppermint Andy ice cream. And not only that, but feel good about eating it, because 50% of the sales of this ice cream is going back to the community to support Doorways, which is an interfaith nonprofit that provides housing services for people living with HIV and AIDS. So yet again, Tamara is giving back to the community and making us all feel good by eating ice cream. So I hope you guys are doing well. Enjoy your ice cream and stay delicious, St. Louis.
Your hosts for the Chew and the Lou podcast are Joe Prosperi
And Lydia Glenn.
Our producer is Veronica Moheski, and a big special thanks to our guest, Tamara Keefe from Clementines. This has been a production of 9PBS in St. Louis.